every time you go and see the forums, naysayers and whatever. And the last point is that most of the people are going to tell you you cannot tank or maintain the Taunt Swap targets. This is the most funny part, because that's also not true. No matter how controversy or hilarious for you it looks like, those bosses who do require Taunt Swap have ability and have a ways and mechanics for you to be able to maintain it as a paladin protection. Most of the people point out on the four horsemen, but all those people forget that four horsemen have a debuff which also reduce your threats, and that can be used, if you think logically, as a taunt in that scenario. Why? For example, there are four horses, and the most easy one, because as a protection paladin you have a weakness, and this is the biggest weakness point for you. You always want to choose the most easiest one from them, and you want to be ready for this fight, to have full consumes and everything, so you can survive not 4 but 8 debuffs stacks. I know it's a big damage, but it is doable if you are really ready for that. And yeah, if you are not going to, if you're going to make sure that you are not going to make mistakes in this fight, because it is one of the hardest, not impossible, but hardest ever fight for you, and most of them are going to fail, whoever is going to try, but it is doable. So 8 debuffs with some pesting slot gear, full consumes and everything, and bubble from the priest, you can survive 8 debuffs, which mean within 8 debuffs the target who is coordinated with you is going to lose his debuffs, and by coordinating well this horse, you can 2-man main tanking this, while the other 6 tanks are coordinating between the 3 horses and do them with the less debuffs. Basically, what you need to do on this horse as a protection paladin is, first you go to the, let's say, top right horse. You burn out your mana fully using exorcism, judgments on the cooldown. No, holy shield are not going to be necessary for you, because they don't do much melee damage. So you basically want to do all and to spend your mana wisely and do the most threat against this target. Sometimes you're going to use consecration, depend on how good you manage your mana, and make sure always max ranks to use. I will get back to that story later. So you basically go for exorcism, judgments to this horse, burn all your mana using those spells, maybe some consecrations if you are good in managing your mana, use some runes and potions in order to make this happen. And this way you build up a lot of threats, but because at the beginning you don't have to hard try, you can go for like 5 or 6 debuffs and give some extra time to the others in your raid to kill some of the other horses while you're doing this trick. So basically, at the beginning, once you hit the 6 debuffs, your partner warrior who is going to replace you come to you, taunt over you that horse, you run away, but the warrior who is your partner basically don't have to do any damage to keep up the threats. He just need to do light damage to make it for the threat reduction by the horse. Not that much damage, not that much threat, but enough to keep up with you. And because the amount of time until your debuffs are gone, the warrior tank basically need to go up for 8 stacks. So basically, at the beginning, he can, with some bubble effort by the priest, go for 7 debuffs. And at the end, for the last debuff, because he's not going to make a lot of threat to the target, he's just going to keep up with your threat to the target as the target reduces his threat. At the last debuff from the boss, he's not going to do any damage, no threat or anything. So once the last 8 debuff is coming, he's using a shield wall for the second round he's going to keep. For the first round he's going to use last stand together with the priest bubble, because at the beginning usually healers will have much more mana and are going to be much more comfortable compared to the later. He's going to use last stand, have the priest bubble, and survive this fight. Actually, I'm not telling this because it is written on some website. You cannot read or find this tactic anywhere. I'm telling you this from my experience, that I have done this before. So once the 8 debuff land to the warrior, he's going to lose the threat thanks to the threat reduction, and he's going to survive the last debuff. He's going to run away, especially that you're going to run back to the horse because you were the person next to the warrior on the threat list. Basically the boss is going to return back to you, so you keep the threat again as a Protection Paladin. And that's how Taunt Swap work in that fight. You repeat up to the 8 debuffs next time, and even if you died from the 8th debuff on that horse the second time, the warrior will not have those debuffs anymore. He will go there, and for the next 8 debuffs he can use even a shield wall for the second round of 8 debuffs. And by that time all of the other horses are going to be dead. But this is in case you as a Paladin protection die by any reason from the second round of 8 debuffs. But if you are skilled enough, you are not going to die from them. You're going to survive them. Especially that you have a health potion and everything available for you to survive that, to make it happen. So once the second round is over for you, survive it or not, doesn't matter. When the warrior tank took over your partner from you, some of the other horses are going to die, and then there are going to be 3 people to assist you. And basically that is how you're going to kill this horse and other horses much easier later. That's how 4 horsemen work as a paladin, basically. Now, another boss that most of the people point out are 3 drakes and Blackened Lair. You know, those drakes have really nice ability, which is called Wing Buffet. This is the ability that reduces the threats from the tank, actually. This is a helpful strategy even for a warrior tank, not just for a paladin tank, because most of the people believe they know this fight, but they don't know it well, and they rotate through the two tank warriors these fights all the time, spamming taunts. And suddenly you see those warrior tanks are losing threats again. Why? Not many people don't even know that this fight have ability which is called Wing Buffet, and the ability is reducing the threats from the tanks. If you know how this fight works, you're never ever going to lose your threats from the boss by the casters or whoever. This is what I have witnessed a lot of the times. Even the min-maxing guilds, those the best and top guilds who clear everything out there, have a problem sometime during progressing or whatever on these bosses only because they don't know about Wing Buffet, how it works. It's a basically ability, maybe that is casted within 30 seconds. I don't remember exactly what was the time of this ability, but there will be add-ons who are going to show you. There are websites who will show you within how much time it is being casted. And all you need to do in this fight is to have a second tank taking over the boss from you before this ability is cast. But because in these fights you have a corners to the walls, one of the tank sitting on the opposite side from you while you're standing in your spot, he's going to taunt the boss from you. The boss is not going to hit you because it reduces the threat from everyone in front of the boss. So the boss is not going to hit you if the target sitting opposite from you, taunting there. He's going to eat the threat reduction that he adopted from you, the threat. He's going to lose the boss, and the boss is returning back to you. That's how the very simple this boss work. And the first two drakes, you basically need fire resistance equipment to reduce the fire damage from the debuffs and the abilities the bosses have. For the third boss, most important thing is for any tank to have, but as far I see, maybe almost nobody today are doing, is shadow resistance gear. If you have this shadow resistance gear, basically the third boss is not going to heal himself when he is attacking you. Why? Because his ability, which puts you debuffs on you, and from those debuffs he's getting healed, are going to get resisted from the boss and are most likely to disappear from you. So you have a Arms Warrior here on top of that, which is going to cast Mortal Strike on the boss, and that's how his healing is going to be reduced to very low level, and you can free main tank the boss, while the other tank is going to taunt for the wing buffets only. So this fight is basically tank and spank fight, instead of taunt swapping all the time and having this aggro madness, which is going to cause a chance of wipe your rate. And some other bosses like this are aggro reset bosses from Zoo Group, like most of people are well familiar with the threat reduction bosses. Those who are transforming. Unfortunately, in private servers, they didn't reduce quite well the threat from the ranged, as they supposed to. They was only reducing differently than how they supposed to do in original classic. So basically you had this kind of situation as a paladin tank where you couldn't tank this boss only because of the bugs from the private servers, which was causing you problems with your gaming and playing experience. And that's why classic World of Warcraft is going to be amazing and a paladin dream, because you will have opportunity and a chance to do things you couldn't even think about. So basically those bosses wipe the whole raid threat. You simple judgment and you pick up the threat again back toward you. Another boss who have a threat wiping is General Ryax in AQ20. So many people are talking about this boss. So how do you tank this boss? Basically this boss have a aggro wiping once he knock back the target, and if the raid is well coordinated according to the strategy and sitting next to the walls with nice coordination about medium heals, not to full out them, because they don't have to be full out on heals. All you do is you main tank the boss, and then if the boss knock back you have general who is going to take over the boss, because the boss is doing some random tank knockbacks, which is solo wiping the tank threat. Once this ability is done to you as a tank Protection Paladin, the boss is instantly going to switch against the general. And because this is not a private server where the bosses are going to do a lot of physical damage, but instead in classic regional is going to do much lower damage, a physical damage I'm talking about, not the spells or whatever. Because the boss is going to do much lower damage, and the people can actually buff general here with their buffs. They can heal general here with their heals. He can tank the boss until the AoE knockback, which is going to reset everyone's threat. Once the AoE knockback happen and everyone's threat is reset, you can take it over the boss as a Protection Paladin again, very easy, and continue tanking it like this. So basically you swap between you and the general, which means you still can do this fight without a taunt needing or requiring. General will always over aggro you. He will always have a nice threat. I'm not telling about over aggroing you once you main tank, but once the boss wipe your threat, he will always pick up the aggro from the boss. The damage dealers or healers cannot match the threats General is going to do, thanks to his heals and thanks to the damage he do. That was the position of me talking about all those unsorted issues that people often bring without knowing how Protection Paladin work at all. Especially I explained how mana regeneration work, Judgment of Wisdom, Seal of Righteousness, and then you have consumes on top of that, you have buffs on top of that, you have classes who are going to regenerate your mana in case you need that much, which I don't really had a need at all in my videos. As you can see, I never use it innervate by the druids. But also another thing to remember is that tier 3 set for the druid, I don't know about the priest, but especially the druid tier 3 set, the 8 bonus provides you regeneration of your mana once you get healed. And imagine, as a protection paladin, having a druid healer is exactly the same as a paladin in the Burning Crusade getting heals by another paladin. Anytime you get crit, if you remember in the Burning Crusade, anytime you get crit, you get mana regenerated. This time in vanilla, if you have a full tier 3 druid on you, anytime you get heal, you get regenerated mana by the druid. Which means you want always to have a druid healer as a protection paladin, if the druid is like tier 3 or something. Your mana is going to be extremely well, and you're going to do a lot of threats compared to how much you have imagined.